Hello there, Mandy here. Restorative Grief with Mandy Capehart is not just a podcast. It's also a book, a free online grief group, and a one-on-one private coaching practice. If you are interested in learning more, visit mandykapehart.com to find out how restorative grief can help you heal heart, mind, body, and spirit. Welcome back to Restorative Grief with Mandy Capehart. You are listening to episode 210, titled Nourishment Through Intense Seasons. When you are facing intense seasons of life, be it through loss or life itself, you need nourishment more than ever. But knowing where to begin feels like the hardest question to answer of all. So this week, we're exploring how the restorative grief model's holistic approach to your personhood can provide a map full of pathways back toward yourself and the grounding experience you deserve. Also, this episode marks the beginning of our 5th year producing restorative grief episodes for you on a weekly basis. Can you believe it? I can't. So, with me, take a deep breath. Applaud yourself for making space to reflect now or 5 years ago, whenever you started listening, and get ready to remember how to nourish yourself through every intense experience in this life. When I first explored meeting my own needs in grief work, I realized the popular models of grief support were severely lacking. I needed something holistic, not just an emotional or a mental approach to loss. Grief is a whole person experience. No part of us emerges untouched. So when we begin to consider how we can move through the intensity of our lives at any given moment, we have to make space to address all of our parts. We all experience seasons of intensity, and not just when we are living through the loss of a loved one. Maybe for you, the intensity is work deadlines, family demands, or global uncertainty. And maybe it is grief. Maybe it's less clear grief, like a transition. Or maybe it's just the sheer weight of being a human in a complicated decade. And what I want us to explore today is this. Nourishment is not just survival fuel. It's the act of tending to the heart, the mind, the body, and the spirit. And when we tend to all 4 areas, we create not only access to resilience, but a new kind of wholeness. So let's walk together through each layer of nourishment for ourselves and then gather them back together in a collective act into an invitation to something larger than ourselves. The heart is where we hold our emotions, our tenderness, and our ache for belonging. When seasons are intense, the heart can constrict, protecting itself. But healing and nourishment only come when we soften. As meditation teacher Tara Brach reminds us, the path of emotional nourishment is not about rejecting and pushing our feelings away, but about turning toward them and welcoming them with compassion. This is the practice of radical acceptance. Meeting our emotions, even the painful ones, with kindness rather than judgment. So, in this moment, can you place your hand on your chest and simply notice what your heart is carrying today? That act alone, gentle and present, can be enough to remind the heart that it is not alone with the heaviness. Now, the mind. In intense seasons, the mind often spins. It tries to problem solve, to make sense, to predict outcomes, but constant rumination only exhausts us and leaves us even more confused. Neuroscientist and grief researcher Dr. Mary Frances O'Connor teaches us that the brain actually undergoes a profound recalibration when we are under strain or loss. Her work shows that our neural pathways, especially those related to attachment, are literally rewiring when we are adapting to change or grief. This means that nourishing the mind is not about controlling it, but supporting it through its rewiring. One evidence-based practice for this is journaling. Research from the Journal of Traumatic Stress shows that expressive writing can reduce stress, ease anxiety, and improve emotional regulation by helping the brain process overwhelming thoughts. So, I don't want to hear that you hate journaling. I want you to try this. Each evening this week, let your mind place down just one weight onto the page. Write about it without censoring yourself and without trying to solve it. You're simply giving your brain a place to set the thought down. Now, the body? Well, the body always tells the truth. When the world feels heavy, our bodies carry it. We have tight shoulders, shallow breath, and restless sleep. Dr. Arielle Schwartz is a somatic psychologist, and she speaks beautifully to this. She teaches that, quote, the body is not just a container for trauma or stress. It is also our pathway to healing. Through practices like somatic grounding, gentle stretching, or mindful breath work, we remind the body that in this moment, it is safe enough to release and to rest. So try this right now. Unclench your jaw, roll your shoulders back, take a deep breath, exhale a little longer than you inhale next. Notice how even a 30-second pause can bring your nervous system into a softer state. If you're seated safely somewhere, you might also try looking right to left without moving your head. Then take your eyes up and then down, alternating between left to right and then up to down 4 or 5 times. And if you want to feel really silly, include your tongue. Stick it out in the opposite direction that your eyes are looking and switch it back and forth as you go. These little somatic acts are engaging your neurons in a different way than usual, allowing them to release some of the pent-up tension of expectations and to soften into a new way of moving. If this works for you, fantastic. But that's okay if it doesn't feel good or right now. Because this is nourishment, gently listening to what the body whispers before it has to scream. And finally, the spirit. Our spirits are nourished when we remember that life is bigger than our current struggle. It's the place within us that asks, what is meaningful? What connects me to the whole? Author and teacher Richard Rohr says that spirituality is really about learning to see, learning to recognize that everything belongs, even the painful parts of our story. He writes that when we move beyond dualistic thinking, beyond good, bad, success, and failure, we find ourselves held inside a much larger wholeness. That recognition itself is nourishment, to know we belong, even when life feels fractured. And the Reverend Angel Kyoto Williams, a Zen teacher and activist, reminds us that true spiritual nourishment is inseparable from liberation. She says, quote, love and justice are not two. Without inner change, there can be no outer change. And without collective change, no change matters. To nourish the spirit, then, is not just to rest in awe, but to also awaken our responsibility for one another, because our spirits are intertwined. So the spirit is fed both by stillness and by action, by sitting quietly under trees, and also by standing up for one another, remembering that our well-being is bound together. This is the paradox and the gift. The spirit is sustained by awe and engagement, by belonging to something greater than ourselves, and by becoming part of the greater work of love in the world. And finally, that leads us to perhaps the most important part. Nourishment is not a solo act. It is about the collective. One of my favorite teachers, psychotherapists, and authors is Francis Weller, who writes deeply about grief and community, reminding us that healing must happen collectively. He writes, quote, the work of the mature person is to carry grief in one hand and gratitude in the other, and to be stretched large by them both. This stretching happens best in community. When we gather, we share a meal. When we witness each other's stories, we create nourishment beyond what we could ever accomplish alone. And so here is the invitation, putting that all together. Gather a few that you trust, friends, family, perhaps neighbors. Share a simple meal, and as you go around the table. Offer one word for what your heart feels. Bring a thought or a poem or even a quote that has steadied your mind. For your body, begin the meal with a deep breath together before eating. Taste slowly, allowing yourself to savor every bite. And for your spirits, close by sharing something you're grateful for or by singing a song together, however imperfectly it may sound. Because this is an act of communal nourishment. This is the weaving of heart, mind, body, and spirit. Thank you for listening to episode 210 of Restorative Grief. In the end, we are not meant to muscle through intensity alone. We are meant to be nourished by our own practices and by one another. So as you step back into your season, may you find one way today to care for your heart, one way to ease your mind, one way to listen to your body, and one way to lift your spirit. And may you dare to gather with others, weaving nourishment into something far greater than yourself. If this is your first time listening to the show, welcome to Season 5, and please take a moment to become a subscriber, or even better, become a patron. Restorative Grief as a podcast and as a free online coaching practice provides grief support and grief literacy to communities without access to proper grief care, making it crucial to continue. Patrons of the show receive access to weekly workbooks for each episode, as well as monthly bonus podcast episodes for as little as $2 a month. Thank you to everyone who has supported the show through the years, of course. And as always, before we go, one last thing. Please remember, the only solution for grief is to do the work of grieving. Thank you for listening. I'll see you next week.